is a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Aquilini.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Yeah. Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Well, off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. We are live, facebook.com. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter, podcast_hockey. Of course, we're live on Facebook, facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, youtube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we are currently sitting at approximately 100 and I can't
79.
I can't even think of a jersey number at this point. My apologies. I just got out of calling a game between the Greater Vancouver Canadians and Fraser Valley Thunderbirds. That's why we're a little late. Of course, you can subscribe to the audio shortly after this is done. I imagine that there's people going so many different directions, as October is Sportstober. I think that should be the name of it. We've got everything going on. We've got probably the wildest wild card baseball chase ever, where I think it's like the Blue Jays need the old Expos and the new Expos to win, and then then they have to beat Baltimore to have an opportunity for a tiebreaker, and then the Mariners need all of that to get into the tiebreaker as well. Go Mariners! That's it, right? I said it. Anyway, that's our baseball talk. We've got so much else on. There's so much going on. Let's get right into it. Let's say hello to everyone. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Kev. Andre Markov, 79.
That's right, Andre Markov. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah.
What's going on? How are you?
It's been a ridiculously busy week for me. A lot of stuff happening with Amped Advantage. Just running around with my head cut off. But I yesterday actually had a little bit of fun. Played in a golf tournament called the Ironman at Inglewood Golf and Curling Club. And it's where the pin placements are stupid. They're so hard. And the tee boxes are in the most difficult spots too. So that was fun. But God, it feels like forever since I've been on. So I'm happy to be back.
Welcome back. Wait,
Just before we move on, Dev, is this the tournament where you had to produce scorecards and scores, and you wanted all the scorecards from when Tyler was out because you played poorly, so you could sandbag it?
No, I was not sandbagging. I'm actually playing like shit right now. So it feels really good going into the offseason playing as terrible as I am.
But this was the tournament you alluded to earlier on in the summer.
Yeah, so that was the member guest tournament at Inglewood, and I wasn't actually sandbagging that one. It's all kind of a joke because it's slowly gone downhill for me. So I'm coming back to the norm, I guess.
So I'll have a chance, decent chance against you next spring. Got it.
Yep. Keep dreaming, Tris, but yeah.
And yet again, we're still not talking hockey.
Nope.
Jeez, yeah, 4:25 into the Hockey Podcast, still no talk of hockey. That's crazy. Chris, how are you?
I'm decently well. How about you, Kev?
I'm all right. Sean, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's what we're 10 days away from just 9 days away from the start of the season.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited. We got at least in Canucks land, things are starting to look up. There's some with Pettersson and Hughes getting signed, and I'm getting excited. Let's go.
All right. Just very quickly. I know we got a lot of other things to do. This was a tough week for the BCIT family, and I wanted to make sure I get this out. Joel, who's been on the show numerous times, Phil, who's contributed, affected. longtime instructor at BCIT. He actually got me connected to the traffic folks, the Canadian Traffic Network, which I think I'll be starting at some point. But Dennis O'Neill, really well known in the industry, passed away this week. I'm very sad. Just wanted to say that I'm dedicating this to him. Thoughts are with his family and everyone. It's been a tough week. It was shocked to everybody to hear the news, and because just a gregarious guy that seemed on the ball, seemed like everything was well, but unfortunately, just a very sad situation. But I just wanted to start there, and we'll move that, and then we'll just go on to what we're here to talk about after it took 6 minutes and 7 seconds to get here. Yes, let's start with the news of the day, which is Pettersson and Hughes, as reported, finally was reported on. What a gong show in some ways. It's like, oh, we're going to announce it. It was announced late Thursday that looked like everything was on, and that they didn't announce it. It was Friday, and then the announcement was like, oh, we won't announce it Friday. And then lo and behold, Elliot Friedman tweets the numbers, and then no announcement yesterday, but we did get it today. The announcement officially. Press conference is on, and let's just quickly look at the numbers here as I scroll up, or if someone has them, maybe they can.
I can tell you the overall numbers as far as the year to year. Sean might have to pull that one up, but
all right. So yeah, we got PD. Elias Pettersson signs a 3-year deal. Cap hit a 7.35 million. He gets a $3 million salary for this season with a $1 million signing bonus, then a $7.8 million salary in year 2, and a $10.25 million salary in year 3. He will still be an RFA with arb rights after that, 1 year away from unrestricted free agency. And with the changes to the CBA in regards to qualifying offers, his qualifying offer is $8.82 million. So I can't remember when they actually changed that, but and there was a changeover from what the last year's salary was the qualifying offer to 120% of the cap hit for the contract. So that's Elias Pettersson's deal. And then with Quinn Hughes' 6-year deal, it's a $7.85 million cap hit. He does not have a no trade clause in year 6, which is the only year he was eligible for that, because that is a UFA year. And yeah, $4 million in year 1, 6.5 in year 2, 8.6 in year 3, 9.5 in year 4, 10.25 in year 5, and 8.25 in year 6. No signing bonuses.
Yeah, as far as Sean was alluding to, when for Pettersson, Kachuk is the same thing as far as a qualifying offer, and he can just hopefully, for Kachuk's sakes, he'll sign a 1-year deal most likely with the Flames, if not maybe a contract extension. But so it was recently within the past, I want to say 3 or 4 years since that they've brought that into effect.
Well, I guess in terms of the actual deals, I can't think of anything here really to argue about. I mean, both. I think if you're Canucks fans, you got him you got Quinn Hughes under the 8, and you got him at 6. I mean, maybe you want. I can't complain about that. I mean, PD. I don't think you can really complain about that. I mean, maybe you would have wanted a little bit longer, but overall, to me, there's not much to complain about these deals. They're within market or a little under market of where everyone else is going to get paid. Hughes is in the Makar, Heiskanen, and all that ballpark. That's he could talk about the defensemen and what they're making right now, but it's market value. It really is what Hughes is making in market value. PD 3 years, would have liked it a little bit more, but I think overall Jim Benning came away. I don't think there's much to complain here with Jim Benning.
I have to agree with the cap limitations. They basically got the best deals that they could manufacture given the limitations. So yeah, like Kev, I'm pretty happy with this and don't have much to gripe about.
The only issue is the fact that there were cap limitations that they could not go long term with both players, and that is on Benning. He made that. He could have found a way to open up not make some of the other moves and open up enough cap space to be able to sign both players to long-term deals or set himself up so that he didn't have that. But in terms of, if you look at what he had to deal with and the fact he opened up a little bit more with the Nate Schmidt trade and all that, if you just look at what the current situation is, these are as good as, I think, as good as you could get based off of that. Like I said, the only nitpicking you can do is why Benning didn't set himself up for to be able to sign Pettersson long term the way he did with Hughes.
Normally, I love shitting on Benning, but I thought he did a great job here. Surprisingly enough, to just echo what Sean was saying, I think that's the only thing that you can really gripe about is that he could not get Pettersson locked up for long term. But the good thing about it is that they still have team control with Pettersson still being an RFA at the end of this deal.
I mean, I agree that Benning has put himself in the position that he did, and I'm not going to say that he's mastered this, but so in any way, shape, or form. What is intriguing me though is Travis Green, because it sounded like, according to Rick Dollywall, Travis Green had some not input in the contract numbers, but he did have to put his foot down and say, "Let's get this done." Green has been quite vocal this training camp that Pettersson and Hughes has not been there. I'm sure they're going to come in great shape. I'm sure that everything on that end, that they're top quality hockey players and they love the game and everything in that sense will be fine. But I do think that they are a little bit behind the eight ball, and I think Travis will have some expectations of Pettersson and Hughes coming in. And I do think that on both of those cases, I think that the pressure is a little bit mounting on them to come in and make sure you make a good impression.
Yeah, if you're going to take the time that Pettersson and Hughes did to make these deals, which is part of the business now. We saw Besser do it. We saw Horvat do it. We've seen Matthew Tkachuk do it. We're seeing Brady do it as well. It is part of the business now. So if you're going to do that, you have to come in as guns a-blazing as you can. And if there was any two players that I wouldn't be too worried about it with, it's these two. Just because you've got Jim Hughes, they were running practices. They were practicing with the University of Michigan Wolverines as well. They've been around that enough. They may be a step behind right now, but I don't think that's going to last very long.
They do have the Canucks have 4 more preseason games, one tonight. I don't think that they'll be in the lineup tonight, but so that gives them 3 more games to get the game speed up, and just hopefully that they'll be able to come out of this with running, I should say, into the regular season. And if they can do that, then all of this is a moot point. But it's not a Johnny Gaudreau situation where he signed the day before regular season started, so he had 0 preseason games to kind of get him up to game speed. So I don't think that there is too much of concern. But they need to come out with their first preseason game and show everybody that they are and have been working hard and training hard, and that they won't be missing too much of a step.
Yeah, agreed on that. And, it does. I mean, you got some slotting lineup decisions to make of where you're playing everybody to. So, even if they get off to somewhat of a slow start, I think that there's somewhat of an understandable there, but I do think that there's some pressure on them, expectations. I mean, and here's the thing with Pettersson, it's been 9.5 months since he actually has played a game. So I think he's going to be, I imagine he'll be ramped up, and Quinn Hughes did not have the greatest of years last year, and I think he'll be ramped up, and just a matter of getting them in and slotting them in wherever they go. And maybe the Lotto line reunites, maybe not. And, it does give them their options that they need.
One thing that did come out, I know when they announced the press conference was going to start when we were trying to record, Chris was like, "Oh, that's going to throw a wrench into things," and I didn't think there'd be too much of note coming out. One thing of note that did come out is that Brock Besser is going to be held out of the rest of the preseason with whatever he's banged up with, so he won't be playing. It'll be that just throws a little bit more intrigue into what the lines will be, because we've seen the Miller, Podkolzin, and Garland line be something that Green has stuck with from day one of camp all the way through till looks like they'll probably be playing together again tonight. By the way, that is the first hockey game at Rogers Arena with fans in attendance since this whole COVID thing started. So that's going to be fun to watch tonight. But it's going to, we don't know we're not going to really have a good idea on what the lines are going to be going into game one versus the Oilers.
If that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised if they throw Dickinson up on that top line there just to see how he does, because he does have a lot of skill and good defensive mind, good defensive player as well. So I would be kind of curious to see him possibly jumping up in the lineup, even if it's just for 5 games or so, depending how long, if Besser does not show up on opening night.
Well, yeah, that's that plus the it looks like Sutter's not going to be ready. Like whatever he's dealing with looks a little bit more serious than I think initially thought. So there's that fourth line's going to be brand spanking new. So that's if that's good news for someone like a Justin Dowling, who could be on the opening day lineup for the Canucks, because he can penalty kill. He can be an option on the power play. He could go up and down the lineup. I think that opens a spot up for him. And I think another reason why we will see a Miller centering his own line set up to start the season, because you need that center depth.
So from Brendan Batchelor, takeaways from Brendan's presser: Sutherland missed the start of the season. No timeline on out. I confirmed. Besser out at least the rest of the preseason. Club close to 100% vaccinated. Benning previously guaranteed that they would be by the start of the regular season. We'll get to that issue in a second, but I just want to stay on the forward prayer, because I do think that is probably the question that I think comes out of camp here, is who you're putting on that fourth line. So let's see. Let's get your Pettersson, Horvat, Miller, Best. Hoglander, Podkolzin, Garland. That's 6. Pearson 7. Dickinson 8. And one more I'm missing.
That's the big thing, is there, if you're going to go with that lineup, that 9th spot is wide open. Whether it's they brought in Alex Chase on a PTO, you're going to push up Dickinson? Are you going to play a Nick Patan or a Justin Dowling up in the top 9? It's up for grabs. I think seeing who lines up with Horvat and Pearson tonight will say a lot, I think, in terms of where Travis Green's thinking, because you've got Shakeup dressed, you've got Höglander dressed, Will Lockwood is dressed as well, and he's been someone who has shown well at camp. So it's going to be, and he could add speed. Like Lockwood, don't underestimate Lockwood. He could add speed to that line, and I think that would be huge. That's something that speed and tenacity to that line would be very, very a very good thing for Horvat and Pearson to work with, and that's why Höglander was such a good fit on that line last year.
And as well, with the lineup uncertainty, it gives guys like Jonah Gadjevich and like Sean just brought up Lockwood, like these guys that have impressed during camp, it gives them more time to show what they're bringing during this preseason. Because, lineup uncertainty is going to allow them to get into more games.
Not to mention Nick Petan could be pushing for a spot. Giuseppe could be pushing for a spot as well. So the good thing is that there is good NHL depth through the Canucks lineup that you're not too concerned that you're going to be putting a younger player into a situation where they'll be playing fourth line minutes, which isn't a bad thing. It's just, those can be harder minutes to play because you aren't getting a regular shift.
And I mean, that battle is still there. But the other side of this is, I'm just going to throw another situation here. One of them could be up for a move. If you need that defenseman, that's the other option as well. I mean, so that's it. I've liked Lockwood, Gadjevich too. I think has been good. I think we'll need to see a little bit more in that battle, but I think the one thing that I will say, that loss to Tyler Mott, it is. I as a Tyler Mott fan will tell you, I think that's going to be that is a concern for me. But Petter. I mean, I think that the top nine, though, even with the Besser, even with the injury, I still think it's pretty solid no matter what. So you still have the depth there, and I still think you're okay there. So,
the big thing with the Mott issue and as well as Sutter is who's penalty killing. And is that penalty kill going to be good enough? Because they did struggle last year. And are you going to? One of the reasons why I think splitting that lines, the top three lines with Horvat, Pettersson, and Miller down the middle, can split out the even strength time on ice a little bit more evenly, which would allow you to have JT Miller on the penalty kill, would allow you to have some of those top nine players on the penalty kill without overutilizing them and having them playing too much ice time.
Well, and I mean, that could put a Justin Dowling in an advantage there. He has killed penalties before. He's comfortable doing it. So that's an option there. I don't know if Petan has been a penalty killer. And, the other one here in this, it's interesting we haven't yet talked about Zach McEwen. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's not the name that is coming up as on top of mind here as a guy that's going to be in that bottom four in competition.
It doesn't really bode well for him. I'm not sure if he's going to make that regular season lineup, especially with how things have shaken out so far and how he's performed during camp. I don't think it's probably going to work out well for him as far as him trying to be a consistent NHLer, but I guess he just needs to show more next time around.
If you go by who played penalty kill in that last game versus the Flames, Dickinson and Phil DiGiuseppe had 5 minutes and 22 seconds of PK time, and then you had Petan, Highmore, Sheldon Dries, and Dowling in with two minutes and more in penalty kill. JT Miller had 50 seconds of penalty kill time. Höglander got some penalty kill time. McEwen did not. I know Paulie Colson was practicing there, so maybe that's a long-term plan for the penalty kill, but not something you want to rush him into. As well as I don't know if I mentioned, but Sheldon Dries as well. That's someone who I think could be a fourth line option. Yeah, with all those players getting special teams minutes, you had Jonah Gadjevich getting almost 2 minutes of power play time, while Zach McEwen got 7 seconds. So it depends on what they want out of that fourth line. If they want all penalty killers, so that takes a little bit of time, a little bit of ice time away from your top 9 on tough penalty killing minutes, that's not going to be good for Zach McEwen.
No, it's so there's lots of names in there, and that's, part of what Benning was aggressive in, getting those depth pieces. I mean, part of me wants Phil Giuseppe, just only because I want to hear Rick Gollywell continue to say Phil Giuseppe throughout the entire year. That's but
don't. Rick isn't the only one who's going to screw that up. On Friday I was trying to say it and I could not for like 20 minutes. It took me 20 minutes to figure out how to say it again, and I was worried about screwing it up just now. It's gonna be an adventure if he's on the team.
Yeah.
Like, I personally don't understand the struggle, just because for me it's easy. It just rolls off the tongue, Di Giuseppe, but I guess other people have harder times making those sounds appear out of their mouth. I don't know.
Well, sometimes when you're having to talk a little bit quicker, that maybe, I don't know, but that's so the forward question, but you also have defense question, and of course the 100% vaccinated leads to the questions around Travis Hamonic, who did not opt out of the season but is not with the team. So the speculation continues on what's going to happen to Travis Hamonic. I think the one thing that I will remind everyone here is that Travis Hamonic has a family, and his daughter is struggling with some illness, and he has to be very careful. And so I continue to not want to speculate on where Travis Hamonic is at. I think there's some reporting that is making some assumptions, and I'm just not there to make those assumptions yet, because I don't know the situation unless he has said something and I haven't heard that. And the Canucks and Benning and everyone else has requested a privacy. But the issue at hand here in terms of where people play is at concern. So let me throw something out here. Have we just decided that OEL cannot play on the right side? Are we just saying, nah, that's not an option?
I don't think anyone's really thought about that. I think everyone's just wanting to keep him on his natural side, let him see where he's at, because he looked really good in that one game, and it looked like the OEL of 2-3 years ago, almost. And if that's what the Canucks are getting, you keep him there and you let him anchor that second pair. And in terms of short term, I think the Canucks are okay. They just need to find some one or two depth pieces to help solidify things. Losing a Brady Keeper in terms of a depth piece was huge, and I hope the best for him. It sounds like that injury was not nice, and he's out long term. But they need to find another depth piece to help at least solidify that right side. I think that there's been talk about maybe moving Brad Hunt over to the right side. Looking at the lineup for today, they've got Madison Bowie, Tucker Poolman, and I'm just trying to see, is Kyle Burrows a right shot?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so then they are going to play Hunt on his left side. I want to see them try him there because he seems like a smart player. I think he's an underrated, underutilized defenseman who just seems like a perfect 6'7" guy.
Kind of like what Diego was for us a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, I think a little bit like that. I think he's got a little more pop in his game, just because of his size than Biega. But I think even if without that, you've got Luke Shen, who could be a good third pair right shot defenseman. You've got Myers and you could play. Yeah, you got Myers and I just and Poolman. So I think it's short term. It's okay. It's just finding that that's someone who can come in and maybe push Luke Schenn down a notch and not have him play every day, because I'm not sure that's the best use of a Luke Schenn. But he's also a very good, solid, big, physical defenseman. So I think if it's me going into game one versus the Oilers, you play OEL and Poolman. That seems to be a pair that Travis Green likes. You go full on nuclear and you go Quinn Hughes and Tyler Myers and just say go for it. Go score as many goals as possible. Just outscore the opposition when you're on, even if it's 6-5. Just do it. And then you put Luke Schenn with Jack Rathbone. Luke Schenn played I think 4 or 5 games with or maybe a handful of games with Quinn Hughes at the start of when Quinn Hughes came out of college. He's used to that. I think he's a good option there, and that will release Jack Rathbone to be Jack Rathbone, which is a very good offensive defenseman. So I think if you're short term, I think that's a decent start. It's just you have to find a way to find some depth pieces to be able to spell out a Luke Schenn, maybe even if it is moving Brad Hunt to the right side.
And I'm guessing you wouldn't want to have a Rathbone-Myers pair just because of how limited they would be in their minutes, or...
Well, the other thing is you look at the way Travis Green runs his defense. You're going to have Myers. Myers will still probably be the highest minute defenseman, at least on the right side, no matter what quote unquote pair he's on.
True.
I just think that's the best way to go. You got just go nuclear and say Tyler to say to Tyler and Quinn, go score goals. Don't worry about the defense. Go score goals.
Could easily pull a Vigneault back when they had the Sedins and they had unbelievable amount of offensive starts, and just put them out there and to succeed. And then you have OEL and Poolman can be kind of your mid-range guys, and you have your third pairing, whoever that's going to be, Rathbone with. I personally, if it's a long-term Luke Schenn pairing there, that is very concerning in my mind, just because I know Luke Schenn. I've watched him play for a very long time, and we all know what type of player he is. He's a big brute defenseman, yes, but his foot speed is absolutely terrible. So short term, yes, like what Sean was saying, but long term, God, you gotta be looking for a different solution there.
Yeah, I would think. Still, if you're Manning, you're still probably looking for something on that end as well. But who knows there? But and maybe this happening thing gets shortened out, and we know what's happening and figure that out.
Well, not to mention that you do have a bunch of teams putting some decently good players onto waivers. And you might be able to have a good waiver claim there too, if you need something.
Yeah, and the name Jason Demers has come up as an option, but he did turn down Vancouver before, so I don't know if that is a high percentage option, but that name is out there as well. So I don't know. I'm kind of with Devin though. I am concerned at the way that this defense, even short term, is constructed, but I'm not as low on Tucker Poolman as other people, but I think he's going to be solid. Schenn is where I think if you can find something that pushes Schenn into the 7-8 spot, that's the question. And then, of course, this comes down to where Olli Juolevi is. We spent how many minutes talking about the defense, and this is the first time we've mentioned Olli Juolevi's name. I think it's very clear what Travis Green said. It didn't look good for him. I said, hang on, and it's not looking good on Olli Juolevi's side, unfortunately. And it's probably time he gets a fresh start somewhere else.
Does he stay up with the club, being a seventh defenseman and not play, or do you send him through waivers and hopefully he doesn't get claimed?
I think it's for me. I think he's, with the way Brad Hunt has played, the way Jack Rathbone has played, Juolevi hasn't been horrible other than looking looking completely dead after the bag skate. But I think he's just been outplayed by Brad Hunt and Jack Rathbone. I think it's at a point where your hand's gonna be forced. You're gonna have to waive him and see what happens. But that being said, when we're starting to get into the thick of lots of waivers happening, you can make a claim and maybe potentially get a right shot defenseman in back and work with that to maybe shore up some depth there, or use him to make a trade, him and maybe McEwen and get a right shot defenseman. But I think there's options out there. But right now I think he's just been outplayed by Brad Hunt and Jack Rathbone, and he's falling down the depth chart, unfortunately for him.
I think the expectations, the expectations over the years with Olli Levitt has just kind of faded away. I think people were high hopes. And then as this went on, I think people had the lower hopes too, but give Jack Rathbone credit and Brad Hunt credit for stepping in. But you'd be interested to see what happens with Olli Levitt going forward, what his career is like for sure. Anything else that we need to discuss on the land of the Canucks?
I think we got everything covered.
Yeah, I think we're getting the first look of Yaroslav Halak in Canucks colors tonight. I think he's getting the start with DiPietro backing up. I'm guessing they're probably going to split the game. And I just can't wait to see Rogers Arena with fans in it again. It's been too long.
Yep. Good to see.
Before Chris, you got to go watch them play on Friday. What did you think?
Yeah, so fortunately, Hannah surprised me as an early birthday gift. Her boss has season tickets, row 5, right behind the net. So I actually got to sit behind Demko for 2 periods and Marky for the second period. So very much enjoyed the game. But because of the amount of wobbly pops I had, my scouting report probably isn't the best. But I definitely did see a lot of Di Giuseppe and Garland and Rathbone. Demko played pretty well. Like, he was definitely facing an uphill battle. The fact that the Flames had a more NHL-laden lineup. But overall, I don't think we played as shitty as Green may have alluded to post-game. But obviously, we didn't play well enough to win. But it was a great time. I enjoyed myself, and it was definitely nice to be in the Dome again.
There we
go.
And
I was about to say, how was it being at a hockey game for the first time in probably almost 2 years now?
Yeah, because I think the last game I would have attended was when Kev and Tyler were in town, that late December game in 2019. Probably was the last game I had attended. So approaching 2 years, but almost 2 years. It was definitely different. Obviously everyone had to show their vaccine status to get in. Masking was definitely hit and miss, but almost impossible to enforce when you're allowed to have it off to eat and drink. And some people were walking around the concourse just with their drink near their mouth, so that way they didn't have to have their mask on. And in the seats, I feel like there was a decent amount of people that were mindful of masking when they weren't doing that, but there definitely was some people that were just not wearing it because they felt like they weren't going to get it enforced at all. But overall positive experience, I would say.
Fair. Totally get that. All right, let us talk about the team that was on the other end of that. Let's spend some time on the Flames. Devin, Sean and I got into a debate about Brad Richardson's power play time during the preseason of the Calgary Flames because Salim, butchering his last name, Sammy Hadas, sorry. That was Sammy Hadas, actually. I believe that tweeted out that Brad Richardson got number 1 power play time. My thought process on this, just in terms of where this lineup is I think it felt like Richardson was kind of playing in the Monahan role because Monahan is still injured. And this is just a time to do some experimentation. Are you worried that Brad Richardson, 36-year-old Brad Richardson, got power play time? And I didn't see the power play minutes, but I don't think it was more than a minute.
6 minutes and 48 seconds.
On the power play?
Yeah.
Well, I this goes back to last year when the Calgary Flames were out of it, and he decided to only play Matthew Phillips once. And we'll get to him here in a second on some other news to do with Matthew Phillips. But there's a bunch of controversy that Sutter went with a veteran-laden lineup in consideration to, seeing what the cupboards of the Calgary Flames have and basically see how the young kids do. But to the other side of that argument, he wanted to solidify work ethic and make sure that the veterans and the most likely who's going to be on this team this year know that you need to be working your ass off every shift kind of thing. So I can see both sides of it. So seeing Brad Richardson on the power play, yeah, not ideal. Maybe give it to one of the younger players, younger skilled players on this Flames team. I wouldn't say I'm too concerned over it. Am I surprised that it happened? No, I really am not. That sounds like a Daryl Sutter kind of thing to do. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's preseason. Don't read too much into it. If I see it in the regular season, then I'll probably start freaking out a little bit.
It was Salim, by the way, that did say, granted, it's a preseason. Brad Richardson getting first unit power play duties is not what I anticipated at any point when he signed with the Calgary Flames in September. So, okay, but dang credit. I don't know. With this team, I think Sutter has his way of doing things, and he's certainly not going to accept the feedback from Twitter or anyone else to find the young guys. But at the same time, has any of the younger guys really have stepped up? Like, has it been someone here in this training camp is like, wow, this young guy we need to get some opportunities into this guy? I haven't seen that yet.
Oh,
No.
I got a name. Walker Dewar.
He's not ready though. I like what he.
Yeah, but it's preseason. This is exactly the spot where you would put him in. Brad Richardson had more power play time than Michael Backlund, than Andrew Mangiapane, than Dylan Dubé. And you're telling that's just where I'm at. It's preseason. It's early preseason where you can give these some younger players or some players who play lower down in your lineup an opportunity to show that they can go up. Dylan Dubé and Andrew Mangiapane are key players for the Flames' success this year. You don't want them to start feel that Sutter has confidence in them and to be playing with confidence. You don't want to reward someone like a Walker Dewar who has played his way into a roster spot up potentiality here. The way every game, all you hear is Walker Dewar is playing well. Yeah, maybe he's more of a 13th, 14th forward that you're probably, or the first call up out of Stockton, but give him a spot, give him a look, as opposed to 30-something-year-old Brad Richardson, who's going to be your fourth line center. I just look at that and I say that's a miss. And the way Devin said it in terms of, am I surprised? I'm not surprised. That's a very Sutter thing to do. Do I understand his thought process? Yes. I just disagree with it. I think it's preseason. It's time to give these opportunities to players who have earned them. And I think Walker Dewar's earned that look.
He definitely has it. It's. I think what Sutter wants to see is the consistency of these younger players 5-on-5 than on power play. If you play well 5-on-5, you will get the chances on the power play. And I'm with Sean. I was upset that late last season, he wasn't giving the opportunities to the younger players and only giving Matthew Phillips one game, and that was it. And he played very well in the AHL last year and barely gave him a shot up here. So as far as giving a Dubé or a Mangiapane a look on the power play or giving them more power play time, especially in preseason, I agree. It needs to be, that should be your MO. But I truly believe that if they aren't playing well 5-on-5 and they're not doing the things properly that Daryl Sutter wants, he's not going to give that opportunity, because playing on the power play in Daryl Sutter's world is a privilege.
He's very old school.
Yeah.
That it's I don't know if I agree with it, but I understand it. Is it going to work this year? I think that's a very interesting question. But I mean, I think we'll have to see it. It's, Sutter. I still maintain that I think when Daryl Sutter came in and looked at the younger group of this team, I just don't think he was as high on them as everyone else was in the organization, and I think he's expecting something a bit different. I think Dubé and Mangiapane, I think there's something there with them. I think that they, like, when they've played together, they've played really well together. But everyone else is impressed with Oliver Shillington to the point that they think he's got a shot at making the lineup. And Daryl Sutter on Friday said, yeah, well, the lineup wasn't good, so we expect that from Oliver. So I don't know. He has an interesting way with the young kids. I'm not sure I'm fully there, but I don't know. I'm kind of with Devin, and I see both sides of it. I see the side of you need to give these kids a look, but I also don't think that Daryl was high on them. And I think that he's expecting a little bit more than what he's got, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just one of those things. I don't know. We don't know exactly if this is going to work in this day and age of this NHL. If the old school Sutter is going to work, and that's the biggest question. Having a full training camp with them, and starting with the team from square one.
Hello.
Yeah, Kev, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh no, he's frozen now.
No. So overall, you're good. You're good, Kev. Overall, it's just one of those things where we'll see how the team really responds to the type of coach that he is, and the younger players are going to have to prove themselves, because if they don't, then they're going to be sitting down on the bench, and he'll find a veteran or somebody else that he favors more to take their place in the lineup.
Players that survived the cut today: Glenn Gaudin, Justin Kirkland, Walker Duehr, Adam Werner, Byron Froese. I mean, Justin Kirkland got a shootout opportunity as well. I think he's been okay. I think Glenn Gaudin has a shot at making this team. Greater Vancouver Canadian alumni, by the way. So, yeah, it takes time. In terms of, Eric Gabranson's going to be the Flames Twitter whipping boy all year. That is very clear. Anytime this guy steps onto the ice, the Flame fans are just going to, they're going to lose it.
And I am here for it.
No, well, I mean, yeah, you better enjoy Twitter, because I think this is going to happen a lot. But look, I don't think that this was the best signing ever. No. Do I think that they need someone else in that position? Yes. Is he slower than Nails? Yes. But I think we'll probably see him a little bit more than we want to, which Sean and Chris will be happy about. I don't know if others will be, but
I won't be. You'll hear a rant or two, I'm sure, about putting him out. It's more okay. He's an NHL defenseman, yes. He's a 6'7" defenseman. Do not put him in situations that are going to be detrimental for this team. That if all of a sudden all hell breaks loose and there's a breakdown within the system, it's just him back there. Holy shit balls. I'm going to freak out.
All right, well, at that point, Deb, we're halfway through preseason. What are you expecting from the Flames defense in terms of pairings?
Oh man, that's a good question. For my expectation, the top three defensemen on this team is Noah Hannafin, Rasmus Anderson, and Christopher Tanev. Oh, I almost did it. Christopher Tanev.
How do you like my ghost face?
And so if we're looking at the top line, okay, Hannafin's going to be number one left side. I would love to see a Anderson Hannafin pairing. Kind of, Sean said it about the top pairing, potentially top pairing in Vancouver with Myers and Hughes, and I feel like that would be a good mix for Calgary here is Hannafin and Anderson, and just let them buck, let them go. And then after that, you have Tanev with either Zadorov or Valimaki. I think Valimaki is a good fit there potentially, just because of what Tanev has brought into younger players in the past, and Zadorov is pretty young too. I mean, he's 26 years old. He's had a bit of some struggles here, trying to find his way, but I think that that's a good potential as well. So having them as interchanging as far as on the right side, Tanev and Anderson switching from second to first line, and Valimaki and Zadorov on the left side switching over there on the right, or sorry, I said left side for Tanev and Anderson, but right side for Anderson and Tanev, and left side for Zadorov and Valimaki. And then I guess you have Gabranson back there on the right side. I guess my biggest thing is like, okay, so you don't have Gabranson, you might have Michael Stone, and I don't mind that either. I think I'd rather have a Michael Stone back there than a Gabranson on a regular basis on your third line right side, just because you know what you're going to get with Stone, and I think that he is a better option overall than Gabranson. But I know that when you have Daryl Sutter call you in the offseason, and this is Gabranson saying that, hey, we're looking at you, we want you to be a part of this team. You know that he is a favored by Sutter, so he's probably going to get more ice time than potentially Michael Stone. But Michael Stone also at the end of the year had a lot of ice time under Daryl Sutter as well. So I'd rather have Stone than Gabranson on that third line for sure.
You also know that you're fighting for an NHL roster spot if you're getting into fights in the preseason. And at that game I was at, guess who? Goody and McEwen.
Yep. And I guess the other thing is potentially who's better in the room. I've heard good things about Eric Gabranson as far as his locker room presence and his veteran leadership within that, and same with Michael Stone too. So I'm sure that Gabranson and Dubé had a bit of a discussion too. I don't know if you hockey fans remember that very first game, Dubé in the first season. Dubé's first regular season game absolutely got leveled by Gabranson, and Travis Hamonic stepped up and got a broken jaw from it. So he is tough as nails, that's for sure.
And I think Zadorov, I think he's shown some physical. I mean, I think that he's going to be tough to play against too. So I don't mind him so far. I mean, I think some will not like his penalties, but I think so far I haven't minded him either. So,
yep.
So I didn't hear you say Oliver Shillington. There's a lot of people like, hey, give Oliver Shillington a shot. Where are you on that?
Yeah, he's always been kind of the last man or the forgotten guy really within this Flames lineup in this organization. I think he needs to show a little bit more before you can really get him, give him the ice time, especially with the Daryl Sutter, as we were talking about before. Younger players not getting as much of a shot than veterans. So the person he has to beat out is Juuso Välimäki. If he beats out Juuso Välimäki, then for sure, give him a shot on there and see how well he does. And that could be interchangeable too, depending on what their roster, their daily roster looks like. So it'll be up to Shillington to beat out Välimäki.
So my hot take, you're not going to like this. I think Shillington and Mackey have been better than Välimäki so far.
It's very valid, very valid. Mackey has been he's been pretty good too. So there's definitely a good kind of push from the younger rookie defenseman here. And you know what? Whoever takes that and runs with it, absolutely give it to him, and that'll give hopefully light a fire under someone else's ass, whether of either one of those three younger defensemen for sure. And if they do that, then play off each other a little bit. I think that's a good competitive atmosphere you want to be in. And if you're Daryl Sutter, it'll make it a lot easier for you when you do have those three young guys going for the same spot.
Yeah. Do we know how healthy Hanifin is at this point?
Apparently he's ahead of schedule, and he's expected to play some in the second half of the preseason.
Yep.
So. And then you got Darth Vladar, or Dan Vladar.
Yeah.
I think he's looked pretty solid so far. I think he's probably the odds-on favorite, although they're giving Adam Werner a long look.
Sorry, kept going.
Yeah, I've liked him so far, but I think we'll have to see a little bit more in the second half of the preseason when some of these teams are playing a little bit more of their regular folks. The concern here, you mentioned we were going to bring this up, but one of the players on waivers is Matthew Phillips. I see a team possibly taking a shot at claiming him. That's a risk to me.
Massive risk, and talk about managing your assets. I'm very, very concerned that a team will take a look at him and take a chance on him, because he did play very well in the AHL last year. He's arguably one of the top 5 to 6, maybe even 7, players down the depth chart in the Calgary system. So I really hope that he doesn't get claimed, but I think there's a good possibility that he does. And just doubling back on Dan Vladar and Adam Werner, both of them have to go through waivers. They're not waiver exempt. And the asset of losing a 3rd round pick for nothing, because that's what Calgary traded him for. That's a little concerning for sure. And I know that they are high on Werner as well. So, but yeah, Matthew Phillips, he could be a good potential for a team to pick up, and not so much as a gamble for a waiver claim, but he does have good offensive skill that could translate to a team pretty damn easily, and maybe even like a younger team like Anaheim that's just rebuilding, and he could easily, be pushed up into the lineup.
I look at Matthew Phillips, and he feels like a quad A type player, where I think he's going to be up and down. He hasn't blown the AHL away with production, which I think you need to do, especially at his size, unfortunately. So I'm on the thing. I'm on the assumption that he'll clear. I don't think teams will take a shot at him on waivers, at least at this point. I think they would want to see him go in and actually be a point per game player in the AHL this upcoming season.
And I do actually believe that if you do have a waiver claim on somebody, they have to be on your NHL roster for 30 days after, or there's some sort of catch there within that. So yeah, might be okay, but like I said, maybe a rebuilding team might take a chance on him.
I'm just going to toss this out there. Who has more pressure on him now? Who's on more of a hot seat, Benning or Treliving?
Treliving, definitely. He's gone through 3 hires of coaches, and he's I'd say Treliving for sure. It's an underwhelming team here in Calgary that on paper looks pretty damn good, but after each year that passes, not doing well and not getting to past the first round or getting into the playoffs, it's more and more looking at this roster on paper. It doesn't look as good as it did a few years ago because of the lack of production when it actually matters. So in Treliving, or as far as Benning goes, he just signed one of his 2 young studs, one for long term, one for 3 years. So I think Benning has a lot more runway with the Aquilinis, and I think there's a bit more of a relationship there with the Aquilinis. They're very happy with Benning, maybe not very happy, but happy enough with Benning in consideration to the ownership group here in Calgary with Treliving. So Treliving, in my mind, has less of a runway left, and that if Calgary doesn't produce this year, he might be gone even by mid-season.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Just based off of their off-season activity this summer alone, even, I would say that Tree is definitely more on the hot seat. I think Benning has, with all the moves he made, plus having to re-sign both Quinn and Petey, I think he's bought himself a little bit more time, or as you use the analogy, a little bit more runway. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's close. I do think that Treliving, at least in my opinion, he should be on a hotter seat. I think he's especially in the past couple seasons, I don't think he's really done nearly enough to improve this roster. I think there was a huge miss on not being able what happened a few years ago, and to lose in the first round to Colorado after having such a very strong regular season. That's not necessarily on him, but the fact that they've gone downhill since, I think it is definitely on him. And I think it might be time for a new look. And maybe Daryl Sutter that replaces him, but that might be the catch-22 of getting rid of Brad Treliving. If they do that, I think that's I don't think that's the best route, but I think it's I agree. I think he is, at least in my opinion, should be on the hotter seat. That being said, the hotter market in terms of wanting change, in terms of vocalizing it, is Vancouver, which might actually push it into giving Benning the hotter seat.
I think it'll come down to Star, but I think it's Tree, and I do think that this fan base is getting a little bit more vocal about what's going on here. So the Flames fan base, I mean, yes, the Canucks fan base has been loud, and we had the protests and the helicopters and all of that. But yeah, I think it'll come down to Star, but I think for sure I would feel if the Flames get off to a bad start, I think Tree is on that. I think that leash is getting a little bit hot. And I'm telling you, I was the one that pointed this out. If you're replacing Tree, it's going to be Sutter, at least on the interim.
I'm not 100% sold on the Sutter being potentially the one who steps in. Don't forget who the assistant GM is in Craig Conroy, and he's been in talks with other teams to potentially be a GM. So I think that he has a good potential over Daryl Sutter to be the next GM of the Calgary Flames if Brad Treliving is fired within the next year.
that PR, it could be a good PR move. I'm not sure where I'm at with him as a GM, but it could be a good PR move. And the Flames need some good PR. That Flames logo, that Flames brand I still think is a bit damaged in Calgary. That's just me. I think they've got a lot of work to do, and that would be a good step in the right direction. I think in terms of a fan response, I think they would respond better to a Craig Conroy over a Daryl Sutter.
100%.
Oh, they totally. But they've got now that I look at their setup there, they got Don Maloney as senior VP of hockey ops. That's a name that could take over. Brad Pascal, assistant general manager. That's a name that could take over as well. It's not just Craig Conroy. I don't know where Chris Snow is at. I think it would be where that's a little bit more dicey. I think if he wasn't dealing with his ALS battle, I think he'd be right in that running as well. But I think Don Maloney, Brad Pascal, and Craig Conroy are all big, good options if indeed that's the case.
And also don't know the appetite of Daryl Sutter at his age to deal with being a GM again. I know that they did have massive conversations with him for a long time, and it took a lot of convincing for him to even just come here to Calgary to be the head coach.
Fair.
You're on mute there, Kev.
Anything else on the Flames?
I don't think so. As far as just kind of wrapping it up, very interested to see the backup goalie situation here in Calgary with Werner and Vladar. And then, just that I'm pretty sure we know what the starting lineup is going to look like up front. But, as we alluded to before, the third line or the last two defensive spots here in Calgary on opening day roster, I think is going to be interesting to see who gets put in there. And so looking forward to this last week of preseason.
I think the big thing for me is that how many games does Monahan and how many games does Lindholm get? Because if I'm looking at the Flames schedule for the rest of the preseason, I said Monahan and Hanifin.
I heard Lindholm.
You said Lindholm.
Okay, my bad. Yes, Monahan and Hanifin. You've got 3 games left. Monday up in Edmonton, Wednesday in Winnipeg, and Friday back in Calgary versus Winnipeg. How many games do Hanifin and Monahan get, and how ready are they to start the season?
Fair point.
I would assume just off of I do have a bit of insider information, hearing about what's happening over there with both of those players. Hanifin is closer to Monahan, but I think Monahan will get in at least one preseason game.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's move on to the other thing that rattled some people. I don't think this rattled everybody. So we go back to, of course, to February 9th, 2021. It is 9:00, and all of a sudden we're hearing music. It was sports radio, American sports radio, until 9:30 Pacific, and then we heard the Good Riddance song, Time of Your Life. That's ending TSN 1040. You can check that out. We did a whole thing on that. 9:00 Pacific, 10:00 Mountain. Halford and Bruff are over. The morning show is over in Calgary, and Jim Rome is on. Clowns. I'm trying to do a Jim Rome impression. I can't. I'm sorry. It hurt. I get that face. I get it. Replacing Rintoul and Sermon, which they have moved, unfortunately, for everyone involved. They are moving away from that show. And Sportsnet is going with a 10 to 9 to 10 to noon, 9 to 11 Merrick and I want to say Jeff Merrick and friends, but it looks like it's going to be Merrick taking over that slot all through on the Sportsnet Radio network. So unfortunately, Ridgel and Sermon lost their position. I don't think any on-air talent lost their position in Calgary. It did take the market here in Vancouver. It took a little bit of a hit here, I think, in terms of it just felt like another ding to the sports market here in Vancouver, replacing everything with Toronto. But ultimately, you're still getting most of the Vancouver local network, as far as I know, and everything seems a little status quo, other than there's a new show in Calgary. And so, was this? I mean, it's really unfortunate. It really sucks that jobs were lost, but it doesn't feel like this. It doesn't feel like 1040.
I think the initial reaction, especially in the Vancouver market, was definitely like oh, here we go again sort of initial reaction. But I think once the dust kind of settled and we found out that it was just the one Rintoul Sermon show, I think more people were like, okay, I can maybe understand where they were coming from. Like, obviously not everyone felt that way. And I think there's a lot of people that think Rintoul got the real short end of the stick, that he's a great broadcaster and just didn't deserve that demotion. I'm probably in that camp. That being said, bringing in a guy like Jeff Merrick, I'm not opposed to. If you're going to bring in any national level show, that's probably the one voice I would want to hear. And I feel Sean's probably also going to be in that camp with me. But yeah, ultimately it sucks for Rintoul. But I kind of understand why Sportsnet made the move that they did.
Yeah, I just remember getting messages from friends thinking I would know what was going on. But yeah, it sucks with Scotty Rintoul, because I think he's a professional's professional. He was put in a tough spot in that trying to do a simulcast with talking about the Flames and the Canucks, talking about Calgary and Vancouver markets, when they're very, very different. And it didn't do justice to either. And I think he was in a no-win situation, unfortunately, in that spot. And as much as I like Scotty, he can be a little bland in the way he comes across. And I think that doesn't help when you're trying to play off two different markets. So I feel bad for everyone who lost their jobs, whether it was Rintoul, whether it was Scott MacArthur out of Toronto, as well as others. There were some big names left.
Richard Deitch
that were let go out of Toronto as well. But I think this is just a part and parcel to the changing of how we consume audio content. It's the old radio, the old radio plans and programs and everything. I don't think works in this day and age. You have to change things up, and the way that they're trying to set up at least 590 in Toronto looks like they're trying to go more for digital content and more evergreen content, which is good and bad in the same way, in the same aspect. But losing even if it was a 50-50 local show off the airwaves on 650 and 960 in Vancouver and Calgary respectively, hurts. And in terms of being able to have spots for potential broadcasters like a Kevin, it hurts. And I think it's just, but like I said, I think the industry is just changing, and I think we're gonna see more stuff happen going forwards that are to go towards a more digital platform.
I wasn't a big fan of the Rintoul Sermon show. I thought they did the best with what they had. Sean, I think Sean hit the nail on the head. Rintoul was very bland in the way he came across. Sermon, I thought she did pretty well considering, but at the same time, I think her views were lost on. I mean, from my perspective, they were lost a little bit. And I mean, I'm not trying to kick them while they're down. Obviously, it's a sad time when people lose their jobs, but I'm actually quite interested to see the Merrick show and what he brings, because I think he understands that it'll be across Canada. And I think it'll be very similar to what he brings to the 32 Thoughts podcast. So I'm not overly concerned it's going to be just Toronto content heavy. And if it is, hey, I'm a Toronto fan, so it's not bad. But everybody else out here, I know that'll be be an uproar for sure. But I have enough confidence within Merrick and what he does to bring a justice for us out here in the western part of Canada for. I'm sure there's going to be Oilers talk, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver, and so I'm not overly concerned with it. But yes, it does suck when people lose their jobs.
I'm with you. And we're there. Yeah. I guess for me, in terms of the Toronto conversation, which I think is frustrating in one hand, because this really feels like this is a Toronto-centric move in some ways, but trying to keep local here in some ways too. I think this is where the struggle is, because I think in Vancouver that just is not going to fly. Like your priority in Vancouver, excuse me, while I die, is Vancouver. It has to be the Canucks number one, and there's not necessarily a huge openness to talk about other NHL. In Calgary, that's different. I feel like there's a conversation to be had about other NHL. Like, okay, we can, yeah, sure, we'll talk other NHL. I'm not super worried about it. We only need to talk about Flames all the time. Very different in Vancouver. And I think that's where Merrick will struggle, particularly there, because I do think that's not going to – I just think any non-Vancouver conversation is not going to fly in Vancouver. It might everywhere else, but it won't in Vancouver. That's going to be the big sticking point. But at the same time, there's people that love the Leafs like Devin, and there are people that hate the Leafs and will watch them because they hate them and they hope the absolute worst for them. So if you're Sportsnet, you're like, well, that's ratings either way. Like, I don't care if you love or hate the Maple Leafs. Are you watching the Maple Leafs? Then, yeah, that's the problem there. But I think in Vancouver, I think that there is a definite desire, and I think there is room to be had for an all sports Vancouver network to come back. I think also too. I think the success of both Donnie and Ollie and Sakaris and Price, I think, creates some interesting things. But in Vancouver, you talk Vancouver first, then you talk Vancouver second, and then you talk a little Seahawks. And then after that, you can go back to Vancouver, but you don't talk about Toronto. It is different, and I think that's where Merrick. I think that's where the show, in a national sense, is going to struggle.
Yeah, the ratings probably won't be the best out in Vancouver, but it also pushes Halford and Bruff to be more Vancouver or Canucks based within it, and which isn't a bad thing. And I'm not saying that they don't do that already, but they
get text that if they're talking about the Seahawks, can we get back to the Canucks, please?
Yeah,
it's literally that right now.
Exactly, and so it'll be just Canucks based from I guess it's 7:00 Pacific time out there till it'll be 9:00. So you know what? Hey, if I'm Halford and Bruff, I'm licking my chops, being like, okay, well, we're going to be the morning show here, and people are going to listen to us because we'll be talking all Canucks all the time. And then from 9:00 until 12, it might be tough.
Because let's be honest, they're going to go over and tune into Donnie and Ollie.
Yep.
And they probably were doing that already in Vancouver anyway. And I think that what happens there is interesting because you could move some things around. And there's even rumors of a possible simulcast on Sportsnet as well. That's
Yeah, Daily Hive was reporting that.
Yeah, Tyler Green of the Daily Hive had a really good article talking about all that, and he said that they were in discussions before, and I think that door is still probably open. I'm not, as everyone knows, I'm not in Vancouver, but whenever I have a chance, I listen to Halford and Bruff, and then whenever I have a chance, I will throw on Donnie and Dolly. I never was someone who listened too much to the Rintoul and Sermon show. I was never, but that was just because I've got a weird schedule too. So, but everyone does now. That's the other thing, is it's not just your standard 9 till 5. Everyone works and has a commute and then has it on at the shop or the office or anything. It's all very different now, and everyone has access to downloading it and listening to it later, or has access to listening to it live on whatever platform you can do that on now. It's not just radio. Radio isn't the only game in town where you can, like, terrestrial radio isn't the only game in town where you can listen to live sports talk now. And that's why I think it's going to be a change in terms of how these companies handle it. And the one thing, Kev, I think you mentioned is that I do believe, there is an appetite for an all sports from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. till post game of just local sports radio in Vancouver. I think the appetite's here in Calgary too. It's just a lot quieter. But you have to have local ownership for that, so that even if you are just kind of breaking even, they aren't looking at trying to pinch pennies and make as much money. And the suits out in Toronto or at corporate outside of the local market are just looking at the money, and that's it. You have to have a local owner to be able to support it and foster it and let it grow.
Yeah. One more thing though is that we haven't even heard what this time slot's going to sound like. I mean, realistically, I know all of us listen to 32 Thoughts, right? So how's like Jeff Merrick? He's a professional. He will do a good job, and I know that there already is a bias towards not listening to it because it's going to be Toronto centric. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So let's take a deep breath, everybody. And let's see how it actually is going to unfold.
But how is this? I guess my other challenge to that, though, is how is this different than what 32 Thoughts is? That's the other problem that I think that they're going to run into.
What I heard is that they're bringing back Kyprios, and I think he's supposed to be on that show with Merrick.
Yeah. And by the way, Kyprios, I've read articles. Kyprios has every intention of talking Leafs, so he has every intention.
Well, once again, man, we don't know this. We don't know this, right? If I'm learning anything from Sean up in the top right or top left there, it's that we don't have all the info.
Well, I guess I have to join in now too.
But like honestly, it's all hearsay right now. Let's see what happens, right? And yeah, you know what? Yes, everything Toronto does is criticized out here out west, especially west of the Rockies. It's just it is what it is. But you know, I'm giving a lot of props to Jeff Merritt because I think that he will do a good job with it. And so, what if it's similar to 32 Thoughts? How many views do they get every single time that they have a new podcast out? So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, kind of thing, right? And I think it'll have a wider spectrum. I don't think it'll be much different. Kev, I think you're right. I don't think it'll be much different. So what? It's a good quality product is what they have for 32 Thoughts, in my mind.
Yeah, it's about, I think that there's two things missing here though too, and before we move on. The first thing is the development of actual broadcasters in any other area other than Toronto, because they didn't hire anyone else really in Vancouver or Calgary. They did hire people in Toronto to do other content, and I think that's, from me sitting here in a professional-ish broadcaster way, I think that's a bit perturbing that a corporate man in a corporate suit in Toronto is trying to determine what my career is. That's personally frustrating. But the other, and I know we're a hockey podcast, but I think one of the other things that I do think that we're missing is so much focus on hockey, which is fine. But there are other sports. And we're watching baseball right now. Well, some are watching baseball, some are watching NFL. And I think the fact that that's not being covered, I think is also turning a lot of people away to turn to other stations.
Well,
there's a pretty big soccer market here in Canada. Whitecaps, Calgary, and there's MLS. There's even, we've got leagues across the pond that people watch very, very closely. F1, by the way, very popular. Golf.
Don't forget about the CFL. We had two absolute barn burner of games last night, and they deserve to be talked about. Like, last night was absolutely insane. If you had that type of finish that we had in the Stamps versus Riders game in an NFL game, it would just be bonkers.
We're getting more of that.
3 onside kicks.
Yeah.
I think they are getting. I mean, maybe not so much CFL. Definitely, CFL is getting the short end of the stick as far as getting publicity and people talking about it. But as far as MLB goes, NFL, like you have a whole bunch of content within that. And yeah, Kev, I'm definitely with you on that. There should be more exposure to all these other smaller leagues. Like 960 talks about Calvary FC a shit ton. They talk at least 4 or 5 segments a week talking about Calvary. And it kind of goes hand in hand with Pinder getting to know the head coach and the manager's name. I forgot his name.
I see his face in my memory, but I can't remember his name.
I know, damn it. But like it's those relationships that has really bonded 960 with Calvary. So I think that we are getting. I want to give credit to the stations that are giving a bit more traction to those not so much mainstream events here. And Calvary is definitely one of them. Stampeders, there's Matt Rose in Calgary, 960. He follows Stampeders. He's on the morning show being the producer, and he talks a lot of Stampeder Talk too. So I don't know what it is in Vancouver. I don't listen to that radio too much. But as far as 960 goes, I think they're doing a decent job bringing in that type of content.
But you also have to listen to your listeners and what they want to talk, right? And that's the problem right now. Is in Canada, it's hockey. If you're not talking hockey, you're wrong.
Yeah, the mainstream. Yeah,
and I'm all for that. I got to be 100% honest with you guys. I'm not a fan of many other sports, if any. F1 is probably golf is number 2, and then F1 is right behind it at number 3 as far as my sports rankings go. I'm not a fan of CFL, NFL, baseball, anything like that. So I'm all for it.
Fine, we'll keep talking hockey now.
I mean, I guess we don't have to rebrand after all.
Yeah, if you want that content, go to the Heels and Wheels podcast. All right, go listen to them because they'll talk it all.
Now there's a
segue.
By the way, 11-1 Blue Jays, 2-1 Old Expos. New Expos and Yankees are scoreless in the 7th, and Good Guys. Oh, I don't see what the Good Guys are doing.
Not well.
6-2 bottom of the 4th. Damn it. Okay.
Good Guys are the Mariners, just for those who are listening, for as far as Kevin's concerned.
And for the NFL fans out there, the 49ers are currently up 7-0 on the Seahawks.
And for the give a shit meter for Devin is 0 for all that.
Duncan Keith. Duncan Keith here will go through this. He's back with the Oilers. He basically wanted the NHLPA to defend him in terms of his choice of being vaccinated. He did get vaccinated, but he wanted a choice. He wanted the NHLPA to have a choice to make sure that his choice was defended. He's not put himself in good standing with the Oilers right off the bat, especially with the Oilers fans.
It's tough. I think I like the stance that the PA's taken. I like the stance the NHL's taken. We live in a free world where people are allowed to have their choices, but there's also consequences that come with those choices. And I think part of that is when you are in a union and you are in a league and you are in what the situation is right now, you're going to have to deal with that. And for me, it is what it is. You deal with it. Like, no, Dev, do you like wearing a mask at Amped Advantage?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't like wearing a mask when I'm talking with customers at work either. But we have to do that. That is what is the right thing to do to keep people healthy and keep coming to our places of work. And that's where it is. You just have to deal with it. I think it's I can understand his frustration, even if I disagree with his take. My thing is, I think he should have just kept his mouth shut. That it was something that maybe should have been not said to reporters and into the public.
Yeah, maybe best kept as an internal thought. And yeah, as far as the argument against what he was saying, like, look at the chaos that is the NBA right now with them trying to get their season going and all the who can play, who can't play due to vaccination status, yada, yada, yada. Like, it's pretty chaotic for the basketball players right now. So I'm perfectly happy that the NHL has kind of taken a more hardline stance, if you will, and just being like, hey, if you want to get back to normal, this is the best way to go about it.
I look at it like I put so much time in over the years in trying to feel good on and off the ice, prepare and be professional. A lot of that is building up your immune system. So for me, the frustrating part is that I've done so much to try and keep my immune system strong and healthy and firing all cylinders. To have to take the vaccine to play hockey was frustrating. That wasn't the best thing he's ever said, for sure. I can understand why people are angry. That's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, and I mean, coming from a fitness background and owning a fitness business here, as far as, staying healthy, that's the best way to stay healthy for sure, is being active, making sure that you are doing that stuff. But the reality is look at the world, look where we're at right now, and it's shitty, but it has to happen.
We'll stop on Sheldon Keefe. He got an extension. He got a 2-year extension. We talked about this last week, Devin, if Kyle Dubas and Brendan Shanahan are on any sort of hot seat, a la Tree Living or Betting. Are you seeing any hot seats there?
Yeah. I think Sheldon Keefe getting the extension, I think, is smart. Helps Dubas give him another year potentially and say, hey, listen, if this doesn't work with this core, let me try and tweak it once. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. And then you can fire me, kind of thing. So I don't think he has as big of a hot seat as Benning or Tree Living, but I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think that he has at least 2 years left. They do need to get past the next round, though. I think that the first round of the playoffs, if they don't do that again, I think what will happen is, like I said, he'll get one more offseason to try and tweak the lineup, try and get something rolling. But after this year, and nothing happens and they can't get past first round, then yes, he is in a hot seat. But as of right now, I don't think he is. And Shanahan is in the same boat. I think Shanahan is a bit more of a runway or leash, if you will, than Kyle Dubas does. So I think as being a Maple Leafs fan, it's okay. Let's get through this regular season and let's see what the playoffs do. And it's not a foregone conclusion that the Leafs make the playoffs either. Obviously, they got to play the games, and especially within that division, I don't know. Boston's a question mark there. How well they're gonna be. Is Allmark going to be the goalie that they want? Is Montreal going to be able to sustain what they've done within this past little bit? I don't think Ottawa is a foregone conclusion either, that they're going to be at the bottom. Florida is right there too. So it's a very interesting division that they are in, and it's going to be very competitive. But yeah, a little bit of a tangent there from your original question. But yeah, there you go.
Well, there's got to be at least one round of victory for Dubas, I think. I don't even know if that's enough. There has to be one round of victory for Dubas, and I don't even know if that's enough.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of ways. I think there would be some leagues that say final or bust. Oh man, it's about stepping stones. That is the mentality, and that's been kind of the mentality. Not the Stanley Cup Finals or bust, but it's the same thing that we were talking about with the Vancouver Canucks, and you got to take these little stepping stones. And if you don't take those stepping stones, they're still a youngish team, as in Toronto. And you have to make sure that, okay, get past the first round. Then that's where the bar is, right? Anything after that, I think, is gravy, depending on how well they do in the second round, if they get that far. But you have to get past the first round. Get in the playoffs, pass the first round, and do those stepping stones. But yeah, I can definitely see there are a lot of fans out there and maybe some management that are thinking, hey, you need to go all the way. If you don't, sorry, you're out, Dubas.
My only counter to that is just making it to the second round is probably still not enough, because let's say they get to the second round and then they just get blown out.
Yeah.
Then what good does getting to the second round even do for you? So I would say they would, for me, a realistic expectation where no one's on the verge of getting fired or on a really hot seat is probably at least pushing second round to 7 games, potentially even just getting to the third round. I'm not going to say Stanley Cup final, but at least the Eastern Conference final.
Yeah, there needs to be at least a hope, an idea that they have a chance. They were in it in the second round. A win, as Chris said, a win and like 4 or 5, a loss in the second round in 4 or 5 games that's just as bad as not making it out of the first round, in my opinion. If you go 6 or 7 games and you've got a couple overtime games that could have gone either way, that feels a little bit more like progress. But I think it definitely is first. You definitely need to win get through the first round. Or else it's the same thing over and over again. And then you have to, there's going to be major questions. There's going to be, even if they keep Dubas and Shanahan after that, those seats are super, super hot.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, even look at this past year, lost to Montreal Canadiens. There's so many posts, losing Tavares, massive loss there. I think that, I don't want to revise this anyways. Let's move on.
We were going to talk about Robin Leonard, but we probably there's it feels like a little bit there's some fluidity to the situation here.
Yep.
So let's leave that for now. Let's talk. WHL regular season did open, and lots of games. Fans back in some stands. And things are rolling, and everybody there. Logan Stankoven. I'm bringing this up because he signed with the Dallas Stars. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, there's a possibility he's going to make the Dallas Stars, which will be good for Logan Stankoven. Congratulations. But that creates a very interesting BC division for sure. Fabian Lysell is officially with the Giants. He scored last night. So that, make sure you get out and watch your Calgary Hitmen there in Calgary or wherever you're watching it. Go to Dub Network. There's a lot of game recaps as well. So, very interesting what's going on. And I mean, the other interesting thing is Dylan Guenther apparently, I don't know who the Arizona Coyotes will have as players, but Dylan Guenther is a possibility in Arizona too. So, which could be, the Oil Kings, a lot of people are thinking is the odds-on favorite. But if Dylan Guenther's not there, and Jake Neighbors has a really good chance of making the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, that most recent draft is definitely turning out to be interesting in the sense that like all these top name powers, like top name players like Owen Powers, for example, like aren't starting the season in the NHL and are going back to their other teams. But then these lower picks that were a little bit more surprises, like the Guenthers, Stankovens, whatnot, the fact that they're actually getting a shot at making the big team, it's kind of interesting how it all played out.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if Stankoven sticks in Dallas. They've got a decent deep roster. I think he'd be. We've talked about it in the past. Rushing a player to the NHL does more harm than letting them play an extra year or two in junior and dominating. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, good for Logan Stankoven for getting an NHL contract in camp as a second round pick. That's very good. And then Guenther, yeah, he's pushing, but who else is playing in Arizona?
Yeah, there's literally nobody in Arizona. So I mean, not to discredit what's happening there, but like he's just that's the situation.
I was going to say Louis actually been lighting it up in the preseason.
Louis Eriksson.
He's going to win the Steve Correa Award for the leading goal scorer in the preseason.
Yeah, don't make sure nobody picks Louis Eriksson in that pool for me. Do not permit Louis Eriksson.
There might be one of those. Your last pick might be Jaromir Jagr. We'll see.
Oh, tribute. He's still playing though. Anything else we need to get to?
I think we covered most everything.
Not to give anything too much away, we are working on something that's going to be very fun. It's going to get maybe some of you viewers and listeners involved. Once we have all the details, we will let you know. But we have something in the works here, and I'm very excited. I know everyone else is very excited. We just have to iron out some details, but once we know that, we will let you know.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So keep an eye out for that. How do we follow you? How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
I'm at Schneid's on most social media.
Follow me on Twitter, Gordhouse09.
Tyler TNOBLE. He is going to come one day. It's raining up in the north, so he had to look after that. I am KEVOLE, podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the hockey podcast, YouTube.com, the hockey podcast. I will be busy next week. I am calling the U15 tournament that will be going on at the Richmond Olympic Oval Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I'm leaving this show in these people's capable hands.
Most likely the substitute host will be right here.
Right where?
Yeah, we're working on when it's going to be. It is Canadian Thanksgiving next weekend, and it looks like we're going towards a Saturday episode for those who like watching live. So look for that. We'll have a better idea of the time later on. But yeah, have fun calling all those hockey games there, Kev. We will miss you, and I bet you it's going to be a little chaotic, and it'll be fun.
If it's not going to be Sean, it'll be me hosting. This is going to be good.
Not helping at all.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone, and we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.